Hi, welcome back to my channel. Here is another prophetic event that's happening, and this was posted on CNN World News by Simone McCarthy, Isaac Yee, and Aber Salman. And this was posted Tuesday, the 23rd, 2024. I thought you'd find this very interesting, considering that China is also represented by the dragon. And it says Hamas and Fatah signed agreement in Beijing, ending their division, China says. Mahmoud al-Alul, vice chairman of the Central Committee of Fatah, China's foreign minister Wang Yi, and Musa Abu Marzouk, a senior member of Hamas, in Beijing on July 23, 2024, are shown in this photograph. Palestinian factions, including rivals Hamas and Fatah, have signed an agreement on ending division and strengthening Palestinian unity in Beijing, China. The announcement followed reconciliation talks hosted by China involving 14 Palestinian factions, starting Sunday, according to China's foreign ministry, which come as Israel wages war against militant group Hamas in Gaza, and as Beijing has sought to present itself as a potential peace broker in the conflict. So that's an interesting twist. We know that Xi has claimed to be a god and is represented by the Chinese dragon. So that's another aspect we have to look at as far as future fulfillment of prophecy. I believe all of these things that we've talked about on this channel are coming together. It's not just one thing, but if you put them all together, they will all come together and fulfill prophecy. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the agreement was dedicated to the great reconciliation and unity of all 14 Palestinian factions. The core outcome is that the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, is the sole legitimate representative of all Palestinian people, Wang said, adding that an agreement has been reached on post-Gaza war governance and the establishment of a provisional national reconciliation government. It was unclear from Wang's comments what role Hamas, which is not part of the PLO, would play in such an arrangement, or what the immediate impact of any deal would be. The talks were held as the future governance of Palestinian territories remains in question following Israel's repeated vow to eradicate Hamas in response to the group's October 7th terrorist attack on its territory. Now, this is happening right as Benjamin Netanyahu is getting ready to be hosted by, he was supposed to come speak to President Biden at the White House, but because Biden got sick and things are progressing to where he's out for the next presidential race, Donald Trump said he would host him at Mar-a-Lago. So that is happening right as this is happening. So you got to put all these pieces together and see how the puzzle pieces come together. The PLO is a coalition of parties that signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1993 and formed a new government in the Palestinian Authority known as the PA. Fatah dominates both the PLO and the PA. The interim Palestinian government that was established in the Israeli-occupied West Bank after the 1993 agreement known as the Oslo Accords was signed. Hamas was not party to the accords and does not recognize Israel. Mustafa Barghouti, president of the Palestinian National Initiative, who was at the Beijing talks, said all the parties have agreed that they should join the PLO and that the organization is the only legitimate representative of the Palestinians. There is a long history of bitter enmity between Hamas and Fatah. The two sides have tried and failed multiple times to reach an agreement to unite the two separate Palestinian territories under one governance structure, with a 2017 agreement quickly folding in violence. The PA held administrative control over Gaza until 2007, after Hamas won the 2006 legislative elections in the occupied territories and expelled it from the Strip. Since then, Hamas has ruled Gaza, and the PA governs part of the West Bank. And by the way, I'm remembering an article about Netanyahu allowing Hamas to be funded so that they could, kind of control the Gaza Strip. Hamas and Fatah signed a reconciliation agreement in Cairo in October of 2017 under pressure from the Arab states led by Egypt. Under the deal, a new unity government was supposed to take administrative control of Gaza 2 months later, ending a decade of rivalry that began when Hamas violently evicted the Palestinian Authority from Gaza in 2007. But the deal's lofty aspirations quickly collapsed when Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah visited Gaza in March of 2018. He was the target of an assassination attempt when a bomb detonated near his convoy. Hamdallah's Fatah party immediately blamed Hamas for the attack. Barghouti said that the latest attempt at reconciling the Palestinian factions went much further than previous efforts and included specific steps towards the formation of a consensus government. The war in Gaza, he told CNN, has prodded the factions to unite as a common front against Israel's so-called occupation. There was a very clear feeling that what Israel is doing is really threatening everybody, he said. And so in that sense, the feeling of unity to confront the Israeli side is very clear here. A new government would ensure the unity of the occupied West Bank and Gaza, ruling both territories after the war and effectively blocking Israeli efforts to maintain its so-called occupation of Gaza, he said. Most Palestinians would, however, be taking the news about reconciliation with the usual caution and pessimism, said Tahani Mustafa, senior Palestinian analyst at the International Crisis Group, a Brussels-based think tank. The major issues that have proven to be obstacles to reconciliation in the past were not addressed, she told CNN. It's very unlikely anything substantial will come out of this, especially as the biggest obstacle so far has been Palestinian Authority President and Fatah leader Mahmoud Abbas and his absolute reluctance to relinquish in any way his monopoly on power. Hamas is not opposed to the PLO, but has instead demanded fair representation within the organization, she said. Abbas has been reluctant to provide this, as it would mean Fatah losing its hegemony over the last Palestinian political institution it controls. At a news conference Tuesday in Beijing, Hamas delegation representative Musa Abu Marzouk said that they had reached an agreement to complete, quote, a course of reconciliation, while also using the platform in Beijing to defend the group's October 7th attack on Israel. We're at a historic junction. Our people are rising up in their efforts to struggle, Abu Marzouk said, according to a translation provided by China's foreign ministry, adding that the October 7th operation had changed a lot, both in international and regional landscape. Hossam Badran, a member of Hamas's political bureau, said that during the meeting, a step forward forming a consensus government was agreed in principle, with the approval of the Palestinian factions to manage the affairs of the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, supervise reconstruction, and also prepare the atmosphere for elections at a later stage. Badran said that this initiative should not wait until after the war, but should proceed even as the conflict continues, and that establishing such a government could facilitate a ceasefire. And he added that in this meeting, we talked about the mechanisms, but a 1 or 2 day meeting does not allow us to discuss all the details. Beijing has not explicitly condemned Hamas for its October 7th attack on Israel. So China's role, Tuesday night's agreement follows an earlier round of talks between Hamas and Fatah, hosted by Beijing, China, in April. Since the start of the war in Gaza, China, which has looked to bolster its influence and ties in the Middle East in recent years, has presented itself as a leading voice for countries across the global south, decrying Israel's war in the enclave and calling for Palestinian statehood. China's Xi Jinping calls for peace conference and justice over war in Gaza as Arab leaders visit Beijing. Chinese leader Xi Jinping in May called for an international peace conference during meetings with leaders from Arab nations and has also dispatched a special envoy to the Middle East to meet with diplomats and officials. Observers have questioned the extent of Beijing's geopolitical clout in a region where the U.S. has long been a dominant power, but China surprised many last March when it played a role brokering a rapprochement between longtime rivals Saudi Arabia and Iran. Those efforts have been broadly seen as part of Beijing's push to position itself as a geopolitical heavyweight with a different vision for the world from the U.S. The U.S. State Department said that while it had not reviewed the text of the Beijing agreement, it did not support Hamas having a role in the post-war governance of Gaza. When it comes to governance of Gaza at the end of the conflict, there can't be a role for a terrorist organization, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller told a press briefing, referring to Hamas specifically. Miller said he did not believe the deal would in any way have an impact on the ongoing discussions to reach a ceasefire. Miller also said the U.S. wants to see the Palestinian Authority governing a unified Gaza and the West Bank after the war. But no, we do not support a role for Hamas, said Miller, adding that Hamas has the blood of innocent civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian, on their hands. Miller would not say whether or not the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, would speak about the deal specifically in his upcoming meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Tuesday's agreement today was inked as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in the United States for a highly anticipated visit in which he will meet top U.S. officials and address Congress and have a special meeting at Mar-a-Lago with President Donald Trump. Israel launched its military operations in Gaza following Hamas's October 7th attack that killed more than 1,100 people and saw roughly 250 others kidnapped. Around 39,000 Palestinians have died in the conflict that has triggered a mass humanitarian crisis and widespread destruction. So let's just add this to the mix of all of the prophetic events that are taking place. And we know that the dragon is represented with King Charles III at his investiture, and we know that China is represented by the dragon as well. So here we have China trying to broker peace, and a man who claims to be a god, and you know, it's these pieces we need to look at and weigh what's happening biblically and how they're coming together. That's the main thing, because there's different pieces to this puzzle, not just one. It's not just the King Charles III or just the Donald Trump part of it, but these things all come together, and all of the people that are trying to set things up for one world dictator with a one world religion, you know, with the king at the helm, and with everything to be set there in Jerusalem just before the return of the Davidic dynasty with King Yeshua, Jesus, reigning again at the end of the 2,000 years of time of waiting and anticipating his arrival. So this is truly something we need to look at. You know, they signed this into their division with the Chinese dragon leader who has called himself a god. So this is just one more aspect of the end times. Well, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Thanks for your support. And Thank you so much for giving me a like, so the algorithms will pick it up and share it far and wide and cause my channel to grow. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.